So this is office hours, and I'm going to be going over a new feature that we launched and then we'll open it up for general questions. So I'm going to give just another 30, 40 seconds here for people to jump in. Today we're going to be talking about measurement field, a change to measurement fields that I think it's a small change, but I think it's a good one. So I'm just going to go over that real quick, and then we'll jump into general questions. I'm going to give it just a little bit more time for people to jump in. If you guys have questions for me, it can be about anything in ProLine. Feel free to put those into the Q&A section at any time. There's a Q&A button at the bottom of Zoom. So feel free to type those in at any time. All right. I'm going to go ahead and get started on just going through the measurement field thing. So I'm going to share my screen. So measurement field minimums is what we're going to take a look at. So if we go into our company settings and we go to measurements, measurement report fields, there is now a minimum value column here for measurement fields. And the minimum value is it allows you to preset what you want a certain measurement to be at minimum at the time, at the point in time in which a measurement report is generated. So if the main use case here is going to be for waste factor. And so if you want to ensure that for all your quotes, you want your waste factor to always be at least 10%. So at least 10%, but then also we have the integrations with Eagle View, Hover, GF Quick Measure, all of these measurement providers, and they all provide a recommended waste factor, and we can provide that to you as well. And so that comes in through the integration. If the number that's coming through the integration as the recommended waste factor is higher than 10 or whatever you set to be the minimum here, then it would use that number, the higher number. But if not, if it's at or lower than 10, then ProLine's going to use 10. And so that's why we call this a minimum. It also is kind of like a default. It behaves differently in different scenarios, but it's generally a minimum. Now for manually created reports, if I go to create a new report here, I'm going to open this up and I'm going to have that minimum already populated. So for manually created reports, it's auto-populating that minimum number. But for reports coming in from, for example, Eagle View, I'm going to pull in this report. We'll do an import of an existing report. And so we'll see that the number that was going to come over from Eagle View was at or less than 10. And so ProLine has just chosen to keep the 10 that was the minimum. So again, that's in company settings under measurements, and then it's this measurement report fields. And this is where you get the minimum value field. You can do this on any measurement. So if you, for some reason, want it on something else, you can, but the main use case is going to be for waste factor. It was just easy for us to add it to everything, all measurement fields, since they're all kind of equal, rather than trying to exclude it to waste factor. So it's there if you want to use it for anything else, but waste factor is the main one. Okay, so that's it for measurement minimums. Do you guys have any questions? It can be about the minimums that I just went through. It can be about ProLine in general. It can be about automations, anything. I'm here for at least the next 10 minutes and here to answer y'all's questions. So open up the floor. Feel free to put your question into the chat or into the Q&A. And if no one has questions, that's great. We'll just wrap up early. But would love to answer any questions you guys have. All right. I got a question here from Jeff. Can you go over an insurance claim? Can you give a little bit more context to that, Jeff? What do you mean? Like running an insurance claim in ProLine? So I personally have not ever worked an insurance job. So I can tell you, if you give me a little bit more context, I can tell you how you might be able to do something in ProLine, but I wouldn't be able to like teach you how to do an insurance claim. Can you provide maybe a little bit more context to that and what you're looking for? Are you trying to send a quote? Do you want to just track the insurance claim process in ProLine? Let me share my screen again. So I think this demo has an insurance section. Yeah, it does. So, but the way most people are doing insurance in ProLine is they're using a contingency agreement and they're running it. They're basically all the way up to this creating quote area. Most people have like a inspection scheduled type stage. This is all customizable, but you can, this is sort of the default. And then after you've done the inspection, you've verified that there's damage, then you're sending a contingency agreement. So you're doing that as a quote. You would generate it as a quote in ProLine. Contingency agreements. It's a very simple quote that wouldn't have any numbers on it. It would just be signing the agreement. So it's just a signature and then the text. Once that agreement gets signed, typically you would have it set up to automatically move the project. Like the quote template for the contingency agreement would be set up to move the project from creating quote into your insurance pipeline. So you generally would want an insurance and have this insurance area, and then it would move into like this one. It's been a while since we updated this demo, so you probably would just start with like needs claim filed. And so you might do another inspection if you want to go back, but typically you would get, like, on the initial inspection, you would be getting all the information that you need. But so you probably go straight to claim filed. And so you're getting the contingency signed, it's going to needs claim filed, and then you're going to work with the homeowner to get that claim filed. So you're going to help provide them with anything they need to get the claim filed and then get the adjuster out there. So then once you know the adjuster once you know the claim has been filed, so this is needs claim filed. Once you've verified with the homeowner that the claim has been filed, then you would move the project over to waiting on adjuster. Once you know the date that the adjuster is coming, you would have an adjuster scheduled. Some companies like to add events to their calendar for the adjuster when the adjuster's coming, or some people just like to just kind of keep track of that. You can put it in like a note in the project. So it's kind of up to you. I'd probably lean towards creating an event for it, like adjuster meeting, having an event for adjuster meeting. I don't think this demo has one, but no, it doesn't. Then you would set up the event to automatically move over to adjuster scheduled. So that's another automatic movement that ProLine would do. And then post adjuster meeting, you would have it in waiting on approval. And then after waiting on approval, either it's been approved and it's going to move over into the production process, which we'll look at, or you'd put it into no damage. So like no damage. Depending on how you want to run it, you could have a campaign for no damage, or a lot of people would just then turn around and send a retail quote. So then you could send, so it was a contingency agreement before, but if it's not approved, you could just always make it your policy, which I kind of agree with this. Like, regardless of whether you think someone can pay, just always send them a retail quote. And if you send them a retail quote, it's going to push them back into this sales area, and it would be in, back into like quote sent, and you'd have sales follow-up and stuff that would go out to follow up on that. If it's approved, it would go into one approved. And then if you need to get a contract signed, you might want to have like an intermediary stage here for like needs contract or something like that. I've seen that before, but everybody does it a little bit differently. You could also just move it straight into your production process once it's been approved. And then once it's in production, it's back to normal. Same as retail, it's going to go through production. But then at the end of the job, you wouldn't really necessarily have any stages for this, but you would probably want to create some tasks for supplementing at some point. So maybe at job complete, instead of sending the invoice, because you're not going to send the invoice for an insurance job, you would have some automations for insurance jobs that would like be for tasks for maybe supplementing or something like that. We are going to be adding something that I believe is going to be helpful for tracking the supplementing process. That's a feature we're kind of, that's still in the works. I don't want to talk too much about it, but that may be coming down the line, but we don't have anything like that today. So yeah, that goes through it. And yep, absolutely, Jeff. So that kind of goes through how people are typically running insurance in ProLine. The insurance process is very difficult to automate because there's so many elements that are outside of your control. So you're waiting on the adjuster, you're waiting on the homeowner. A lot of it's about communication. There's no like hard events that are taking place. Retail is super easy to automate because there's just like everything is sort of, there's events, there's like things getting scheduled, quotes getting sent, quote getting signed. So it's a lot easier to have that be an automated process, but insurance is, you can definitely track it in ProLine. It's just not going to automatically get tracked. Like you have to stay on top of it and be organized, which is, it's how kind of insurance goes. All right. Let me see if we got any other questions. I don't think so. I think that's it. So we'll go ahead and wrap up there. Thanks for joining, guys. And unless anyone has any last second questions, I'll give just a few seconds here if anybody wants to ask anything else. All good. All right. So we will wrap up there. Thanks for joining, guys, and have a good rest of your week.